Life is a never-ending cesspit of torment. No matter how hard we try to escape its furling claws, we can never escape the madness, insanity, and utter depravity that it inflicts upon us. Even when there is a light in the darkness, life finds a way to steal it from us, force it away from us, leaving us with nothing but the scraps. Needless to say, I'm fucking sad. But before we get into why, let's talk about all the good things in this episode. Episode 2 is a solid improvement over the first, which makes sense considering it doesn't have to spend as much time introducing the characters. This is where we see those ideas set up in episode 1 start to be expanded upon, to pretty great effect, I'd say. Isabelle's idol and Jade's idol clue are certainly going to come into effect later, but for this episode, neither of them needed it, so it's going to be a little Chekhov's gun in the back, which I think will be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't know if these two characters are going to have any interactions in the future, but I kinda hope they do. I like how despite not knowing each other at all, they're able to work together to come up with a cover story, like, almost instantly. So I give them credit for that. The strategy this season so far seems to be pretty sound. I'm starting to doubt that Isabelle may be a villain as I initially predicted, especially when compared to Jade, who definitely isn't. Which is fine, considering who did not get eliminated this episode, we have plenty of characters to fill that Alright, let's cut this shit. You've seen my community post, you know my rankings, there's one thing that happens in this episode that is interesting, so let's just speed run along until we get to that. Episode 2 is remarkably fine. There's nothing super interesting about it, there's nothing really wrong with it, it's just kinda there. Am I going to recommend this episode as one of the best in the series? Obviously not. But am I going to skip over this episode when I inevitably rewatch this season? Also no, it's fine. It's not really consequential at all. It's the first Elimination episode. It's like, whatever. People are still being set up, that's fine. We're still trying to get into the swing of things. This is kinda why I decided that I was gonna save episode 2 until episode 3 came out, because there's just fucking nothing to talk about here. There are a couple of little things that I might want to bring up, but I think I can more easily highlight that in the episode 3 section, so I'm just gonna save all that. Disventure Camp Season 4 Episode 2 gets a C. That is the grade I'm giving it. It's the grade I think a lot of other people would give it, because, yeah, it's alright. Now with that being said, let's talk about the one interesting part of the episode.
This painting is me. The stash, the hair. I've been enraptured by the decay of one's skills, much like this fortune teller. But now, I see I was feeding the insanity within myself.
I chose Alessio as my winner pick because literally everyone said he was gonna be first boot, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be really funny if not only was he not that, but also the winner? Now granted, pretty much every sign pointed to this not being the case, but Disventure Camp has been unpredictable in the past, so I thought, hey, you know, maybe he'll do it. He did not do it. Now first and foremost, I want to thank everyone who was being supportive to me because they thought I was really sad when Alessio got out. I really do appreciate it, but I promise you this is only the second time that my favorite character has been the first boot, and the first time was much worse. I would have much preferred it if Alessio got to stay and expand his relationship with Logan because I did really like that. Unfortunately, just not in the cards for him, I guess. And unlike a lot of eliminations from All-Stars, this isn't poorly written. It's very structurally sound, it makes sense, so from a writing angle I really can't complain. It's just personal preference. I like this guy, I wish he was around longer. I will be fine with these proceedings so long as every Alessio fan from here on out refers to themselves as an Alessium. That way his legacy will never be forgotten. Now on to episode 3, which I happen to think is pretty good. Now off the jump, I really like what they're doing with Linda and Ted. The way these two kind of interact as older people with kids is, you know, I think that's fun. I like the way they talk to one another. I think it's especially good for Ted because I was a little bit worried that he was going to turn into just one big strategy machine who's sometimes made the butt of a few jokes, but I think this adds another aspect to his character that makes me more endeared to him. Ditto for Linda, but come on, let's face it, Linda is already peak fictional character. There's not really much else to be improved upon. Now, I am aware that a few people don't like Linda because she's not super good at the game and can't really back up what she's saying, but you wanna know who else isn't really good at the game? these people, and you like them, so maybe hop off. Another character who's relevant to bring up for this episode is Benji, who I do believe has earned the right to be called Benji again. I'm not completely sold on what he is, but I do think that there is some stuff here that is worth not hating. I do believe I see the vision now. Benji is meant to be, like, ironically funny, but also unironically funny with the stuff he does. Look, given the result of this episode, which I will not go into right now, it's clear where Benji's character is going to be going, and I am not particularly excited about that, although I am willing to give it a shot. Him being an underachiever and a weeaboo is not what I expected from him, but you know what? I kinda like the idea. Benji Hattori is now a C-tier character in my mind. Alas, as one stupid nerd improves, the other seems to get worse. But, you know, I think we're gonna come back to this later. I had a lot of fun with this challenge. There were a lot of funny moments, namely with Richard, Logan, Benji, and Ted, but I think the best scene of this episode is courtesy of Isabel.
And that was the last time I started lines behind the bleachers. If I wasn't already on Jesus' side, that definitely got me there.
I never would have thought that of you.
Me neither, bitch. Hello, new bestie.
But my two favorites this episode are definitely Tristan and Zaid. So here's the deal. So I have a cousin named Tristan, and, you know, for a while, kinda awkward to talk about this character because of that. But now that I've kinda gotten past that, I can say with utmost confidence that I really like Tristan now. They are so wholesome, and I feel like that needs to be talked about more. I think Tristan is very funny, I think they are very likable, and I think there is a very good reason why their VA was in a Pixar movie. Zaid, likewise, is just as charming as I had hoped he'd be. Now I will have to deduct points for koala tacos because that is the most disgusting thing I have ever heard in my life. I think anyone who knowingly brings harm upon an endangered species of animal is scum, but I'm going to give Zaid a pass since I think he had no idea and he clearly really feels bad about it. That is not why the idea of koala tacos disturbs me so much. If you are someone who finds koalas cute and you wish to keep it that way, then please, for the love of God, never look up how they feed their children, and especially never look up how many diseases they're known to carry. My reaction to this moment was very much the same as Diego's. But to get back on topic, I think that the trio were the best part of the episode. It is so refreshing to see a group of people who actually get along with each other. And because of all of that, I was actually invested in their struggle to decide who to vote for. Which in terms of character writing is a really big step forward for Disventure Camp, even if the person they ended up voting for is not who I would have wanted it to be. Losing Amelie this early feels like a punch to the titties. Now the idea, to my understanding, is that they're making it to where the early boots aren't just filler characters, they have arcs even if those arcs are only about 1 or 2 episodes long. And I do like this approach, there's just one problem. With Season 4 especially, it seems like every character has their own story, and how I think the elimination is being decided is the writers are going, hey, we have all these stories, which one do we want to make the bulk of the season about, and which ones can we cut short? And because I like the setup for most of the other characters, I'm okay with Amelie being cut short to see more of them. There is, however, a very glaring exception to this.
Why wouldn't I? When I can't stop thinking about your muscles.
The following announcement
Mine are
has been paid for by...
Look, there's always a chance that there's a big plot twist and that Diego and Spencer don't get together, but even if that is the case, they're still teasing it, so I feel like what I'm about to say is still valid. I like James and Aiden. I like Tom and Jake version 1.0. And while version 2.0 was absolutely terrible, it was far from the worst thing to happen in All-Stars. The point is that Odd Nations can write gay couples very well, but when you consider that these gay couples have been the main plot point of pretty much every season they've been in, feels like we might need to diversify a little bit. Now, I'm not trying to be like, whoa, Disventure Camp is way too woke, putting in so many gay couples, we need more straight representation. No, I'm fine with as many gay couples as they are willing to throw at me, they just need to be interesting, which Dispenser is not. These two are just painfully transparent. To the point where I don't even think it's worth building up to it. Let's just have episode 4 start with both of them making out, and then we can move on to other things. I know how a lot of this fandom writes Alec, and when the fandom writes Alec, they do so with the express goal of having him get raw dogged by Connor. Spencer is just that character but put into the actual show, and there is literally nothing about him that I like. There's also the moment with Logan and the model, which under normal circumstances I think would be fine. Given his character, I think this could develop into an interesting plotline, but come on, this is just blatant gay fan service for the sake of it. Which is fine in small doses, but if this keeps escalating, we're eventually going to end up in a situation like this. Alright, contestants, your next challenge is gonna be very simple. You're gonna go into this big pit of mud, take off all your clothes except your underwear, and you're gonna like wrestle each other, like really hard. And the first one to pin your opponent to the ground wins. None of the girls get to compete, it's only the guys. Girls are gross, girls have cooties. It kinda stops being a treat when it happens all the time, you get what I mean? TLDR, this relationship just seems way too predictable and I don't really care for it.
And whose fault is that?
What are you implying here?
Remember what you said in the episode 17 review?
I really hope that when eliminations happen in the future seasons, they're gonna focus less on being dramatic and iconic and surprising, and instead just focus on being narratively satisfying. Okay, I did say that, and they did do that, and all things considered, things are a lot better now, but you are not blaming me for this show's subpar yaoi.
You're right. I bet you could never write anything like this.
I have, actually. And it's just a matter of time now until I work up the nerve to put it out there. But to end this review off, despite what I've just said, I think that Disventure Camp Season 4 is heading in a really good direction. Given how Season 3 ended off, we were in a very bad place, and my expectations going forward were not the highest to say the least, but Season 4 so far has impressed me. We have gone from very, very bad writing to writing that is pretty good, but with a few decisions that I'm not completely sold on. And going into Episode 4, I honestly think the worst part about the whole season thus far is going to go away. What is that thing, you may ask? Well, I'm not gonna tell you. Instead, I have something else I need to say. When I was 9 years old, this person on the playground called me a meanie poo-poo butt. And when he did that, I personally thought that it was very uncalled for. And so, I did what any rational human being would do in that scenario. I slammed his face into the metal concrete. And he died. And I don't feel bad about it. But after I did that, his parents tried to sue the pants off me, and then I was thrown to the Lechways, and they raised me as their own. It was a very harsh upbringing. I had to run away from lions at every turn, and it was not fun. I still get dramatic flashbacks whenever I think about the Lion King movie. I was in that, by the way. So I think with that being said, we've reached the end of the video. As always, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing because it really does help the channel out. And you know what? It's a reality resort tomorrow. As of right now, I have about a week before college stuff picks up, so I'm hoping to knock out a few videos in that time. If I can get myself to do it, I still have a lot of time to make up. Turns out a lot of things came out this week, so I'm not exactly strapped for ideas, so, you know, maybe I'll get to that sometime. For now though, I will see you all next time. Bye!